After watching many different YouTube videos about teleprompters, I decided to get one. Hi, I'm Don Bullock, and welcome to the Tech iHound, where I sniff out information on things that I use here in my studio and in my home. When I first started creating videos, I was making them for YouTube about woodworking out in my workshop. The majority of each video was a voiceover work, while the video of me working at a machine or at a workbench appeared on the screen. I would, however, create some sections where I would talk directly to the camera like I am now. At first, I tried talking without a script. I found it worked out okay, but often I left out important points, so I had to record segments several times before I got them right. When that became too cumbersome, I tried writing out my scripts on paper using a marker. Those short scripts were difficult to edit, so I found myself having to rewrite them fairly often. To fix that problem, I started writing my scripts on the computer and made all the necessary edits before switching to a large, easy-to-read font and printing out the script. No matter which type of script I used, I taped them to my tripod just below the camera. This worked out fairly well, but I ended up using a lot of paper and a lot of tape. At times, it was also apparent that I was looking at my script, sort of taking a little peek down at the script instead of looking at the camera lens. I knew all about teleprompters because I'd seen them used in television productions and even saw many for sale on Amazon. I just wasn't sure if one would work for me. After watching many different YouTube videos about teleprompters, I decided to get one. Several YouTubers at the time seemed to be using one from Glide Gear. When I saw a special sale on them on Amazon, I decided to try one. The Glide Gear is a very sturdy teleprompter, made of glass and steel. There's nothing cheap about it. I don't think there's even a piece of plastic anywhere on this thing. All that makes it very heavy and somewhat cumbersome, but it's not going to fall apart on you either. Because of all that weight, the Glide Gear requires a sturdy tripod. I wouldn't have trusted mine on the Amazon Basics tripod that I started out with, so I ordered a Metterm tripod I found on Amazon. It's no longer available, but they do have plenty of good sturdy tripods available. While having a good tripod makes it very sturdy, I don't have a designated room for my office. As you can see here, I'm always afraid one of our dogs is going to knock it over when they come running around through the house. I'm sure the sheet of glass that's in the Glide Gear wouldn't survive such a fall. As a result, it stays in the same spot here right in front of my desk. Of course, basic teleprompters like Glide Gear don't come with everything that's needed. To use it, I needed a monitor and software for the script. Since my iPhone could serve as a monitor, I just needed to find a teleprompter app. After trying several different apps, I found one called PromptSmart that seemed to be the best one for me. I still had some difficulty with that because I couldn't seem to get the scroll speed right. Since they also offer a pro version that scrolls with a voice control, I decided to upgrade by subscribing to PromptSmart Pro to get that feature. Right, just what I needed, another subscription. With everything I needed, I began using a teleprompter from my videos. I'd also made a big switch on what I was recording. I had already started this channel in addition to my woodworking channel and moved most of my video productions inside to this office and studio space. This is important because I couldn't have used the Glide Gear out in my workshop. Out there, it would have been in the way and probably would have been knocked over. Until this week, I've been using my Canon Rebel SL2 camera in the Glide Gear. A big problem I've had with the teleprompter is the way the Canon camera is made and how it attaches to the Glide Gear. And you can see that here in this little video segment. Here we have the Canon attached to the Glide Gear. You can see it's attached with a screw to the bottom plate of the Glide Gear. There's a lot of space under that plate, but it can't be adjusted. Here's a better shot of the screw from the rear. You can see that there's an opening for that screw, but it's very narrow. It cannot be moved from side to side. Over on this side of the camera is where we're going to find the door on the bottom of the camera that the battery and the memory card fit into. And here's a picture of that door. Now the door is blocked by that platform that's on the Glide Gear. That door cannot be opened without the camera being removed from the Glide Gear. This means that changing batteries on my Canon is almost impossible. As soon as I could, I bought one of those dummy batteries for it, and that solved the problem. Canon even made a groove for the cable to come out the side of the camera instead of the bottom, which made all that possible. That same door on the bottom of the camera also houses the memory card. Until recently, having memory card trapped like that wasn't a big problem because most of the time I was able to download the video files to my Mac over a USB cable and using the Canon app. Another issue I've had with the Glide Gear is this shroud. It's an important part of the Glide Gear because it prevents the light from the rear of the camera from reflecting off the glass of the Glide Gear and into the lens of the camera. This issue with the shroud is that it's very large and I have to make sure that it's not getting into my shots. No part of the shroud can get in front of the lens of the camera. Several times after reinstalling the Canon on the teleprompter, the shroud didn't get tucked away and I ended up with part of it showing up in my video. To help keep that from happening, I bought this Feel World monitor and a small rig articulating rosette arm with a cold shoe mount. I wanted the monitor so that I could see what my camera was recording. This whole rig was mounted on the camera's cold shoe. While the monitor was helpful, I still had some issues with the shroud showing up in some of my videos. You may have noticed that I've also switched from using my iPhone as a monitor to an iPad mini. I was able to make the switch when a family member upgraded to a newer iPad. It works well for this purpose. As shown here, the iPad mini works well for a monitor on the Glide Gear teleprompter. I'm running the Prompt Smart Pro app on the iPad, which incorporates the automatic scrolling. I'll say more about it in another video. For now, I'm just concentrating on the Glide Gear teleprompter. Since it's an older device and has very poor battery life, I keep it attached with this power cable that's over here in front of my second monitor. This setup has worked fairly well for me. Being able to have my camera permanently attached to the Glide Gear while it's attached to power, no battery, a monitor connected by HDMI, and a USB cable for downloading files directly in my computer, everything was great. I could just leave it all set up for recording any videos that I wanted to do here at my desk. All that ended abruptly when I upgraded to Mac OS Sequoia. Suddenly, the Canon app I was using to download video files stopped working. Canon still hasn't upgraded the app to work with Sequoia as far as I know. After losing the functionality of Canon's app that allowed me to download files directly from the camera, I became extremely frustrated with this setup. As a result, every time I needed to download a video file from the camera, I had to unscrew the camera from the Glide Gear, leave it with my monitor attached, leaning precariously on the Glide Gear while I removed the memory card, put it in my Mac Studio, returned the card to the camera, then fiddled with getting that short screw that's on the base of the Glide Gear back into the small 1/4-20 hole at the bottom of the Canon camera. I was amazed that I was able to avoid any kinds of catastrophes with my monitor and camera crashing onto the desk or floor. A device that's supposed to make it easier to create my videos suddenly made my video production very difficult, as well as adding a lot of extra time to do things that should have gone quickly. Then, in the middle of recording my original review video of this Glide Gear, I suddenly got a memory card full message on my camera, and it shut down. That was, as they say, the last straw. I shut everything down, went into our family room, sat down in my easy chair, and then ordered an OBSBOT Meet 2 camera from Amazon as a belated birthday present to myself. It was delivered about 5:30 a.m. the next morning. What you've been watching is the video produced by the OBSBOT Meet 2 in the Glide Gear. Here's what the Meet 2 looks like inside the Glide Gear. It's amazing how small this camera is. I mounted it from a post that I made out of some parts that I had left over around here sitting in a drawer. It helps place the Meet 2 above the base of the Glide Gear and right in the middle of where I have my teleprompter app for my iPad mini onto the glass of the Glide Gear. Once I got the Meet 2 mounted in the Glide Gear, I closed up the shroud in the back, and that prevents the light from reflecting off the glass of the teleprompter into the camera lens. You can also see here the USB-C cable that goes to the computer, and that supplies power to the Meet 2, and it provides data transfer from the camera into the computer. As I said in the short video introducing the camera switch, this camera is going to be a great improvement for the workflow for this channel. Personally, I think the quality of the video is at least as good as what my Canon produced, and I haven't even made a lot of adjustments to the camera. There are still some settings that I can tweak to improve the picture. Now I can just connect my Meet 2 camera with one USB cable to my computer and use QuickTime to record both the audio and video together on my computer. I no longer have to go through the trouble of syncing them in post. I'll explain more about how this camera improves the production here in my studio when I do a comprehensive review of the OBSBOT Meet 2. One thing all of this has taught me, it's very important to consider before you decide to use a Glide Gear or similar teleprompter. You need to consider what's necessary to access the battery and memory card in your camera. If you have to open the bottom of your camera, like I have to do with my Canon, this teleprompter isn't for you unless you have a powered dummy battery and an ironclad method for downloading files into your camera without pulling out the card. One of the things that other reviewers don't tell you is that the Glide Gear comes packed in a bag like this. It's all disassembled, so there is some assembly required when you get it. And it takes quite a while to get it out of the bag and all assembled and mounted on a tripod. It's not one of those things that you can do very quickly. While the directions are very well done, it still can be difficult to put the Glide Gear together, so just keep that in mind. If the Glide Gear or similar teleprompter sounds like something you'd like to use, you'll also need to decide on the device to use as a monitor. It needs to fit this slide out in front of the Glide Gear. Of course, just about any smartphone will work. While phones work, I discovered that the iPad mini displays more lines of text on the screen. Of course, you'll also need some kind of teleprompter software that will work on your device. As I mentioned, I'm using an app called Prompt Smart Pro, but that's a whole different video. Coming soon. There are a lot of choices on software out there depending on the device that you decide to use as the monitor for your Glide Gear. Now, after all that, do I recommend the Glide Gear teleprompter? It all depends on how it's being used. First of all, the Glide Gear can be used independently from the computer and power source. As long as the camera battery and whatever you're using for a monitor are charged up, the teleprompter doesn't need to connect to anything. I mentioned that because one of the biggest complaints I see about the new Elgato prompter is that it needs to be attached to a computer for both power and video. For someone who needs a sturdy, solid metal and glass teleprompter that can be freestanding and will remain pretty much stationary, the Glide Gear is great. Mine has served me well. I have a couple of videos over here that I think you might like. If you got any helpful information, please click on that thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel and click on that notification bell so that you don't miss any of the videos. By subscribing, you also help me out tremendously. Thank you all very much for watching.